Every single year, approximately 1.5 billion smartphones are sold globally. And every single year, a new wave of eager entrepreneurs looks at that number and draws the exact same conclusion. Phone cases are a goldmine. They are dead wrong. The global e-commerce market is a literal slaughterhouse, a hyper-commoditized, margin-obliterating war zone where thousands of brands launch every quarter, and almost all of them quietly die within 18 months, crushed by Amazon copycats, strangled by Alibaba white labels priced at $3.99, held hostage by Apple's next hardware announcement. You don't own a phone case brand in this market. You rent shelf space until the next product cycle kills your entire SKU catalog overnight. But in 2011, in Melbourne, Australia, two industrial designers, Chris Peters and Rob Ward, look at this exact same graveyard and ask a question that almost no one in this space had the engineering DNA to even formulate. What if the phone case isn't the product? What if the phone case is just the key and the real product is the lock? That one question is worth $500 million. Welcome to Tycoon logic. To understand what QuadLock actually built, you first have to understand what everyone else in this industry was building and why it was structurally, fundamentally broken. The standard phone case business model is a consumable loop. You source a plastic shell from an overseas factory, you slap a brand identity on it, you run social media ads, you sell it for $25 to $40. And then, if you're lucky, your customer comes back 14 months later when they upgrade their phone and needs a new case. That's it. That's the entire model. Here's the brutal truth about consumables as a business architecture. You are not building a brand. You are building a transaction. Every single sale resets the relationship to zero. There is no accumulating structural advantage, no compounding lock-in. The customer has zero switching cost. If a competitor launches an identical product for $8 less tomorrow morning, your entire revenue base is one click away from abandoning you. This is why the supplement industry burns through founders. It's why skincare brands spike on TikTok and vanish 6 months later. The repeat purchase model sounds like a retention machine. It is actually a treadmill. You have to sprint just to stay in place. And the phone case category compresses this problem to its most extreme form. Because unlike skincare or supplements, where at least you're theoretically selling replenishment, a phone case has no biological consumption rate. You use it once, continuously, until either it breaks or Apple forces the upgrade. The operators running these brands aren't entrepreneurs. They're speculators, betting on hardware decisions made in Cupertino. Now here's the question that should be haunting every operator watching this right now. If this market is so structurally broken, if the margins are thin, the copycats are relentless, and the upgrade cycle dependency is a death sentence, then how does a phone case company from Melbourne get acquired for $500 million? Not by a fashion conglomerate, not by a tech company, by Thule, a Swedish outdoor and transportation gear brand whose core product lineup includes bike racks, roof boxes, and motorcycle luggage systems. Why would a transportation infrastructure company pay $500 million for a plastic phone case brand? The answer is that by the time Thule wrote that check, QuadLock hadn't been a phone case company for a very long time. Let's break down the actual engineering play, because this is where Peters and Ward do something that requires both industrial design intelligence and genuine business architecture thinking, two disciplines that almost never exist in the same room. Their insight is this: the problem with the phone case market isn't the product, it's the attachment model. A standard phone case attaches to the phone, and only to the phone, which means the entire value chain of your product lives and dies with that one device. The moment the phone is gone, your brand relationship is gone. So what if the attachment point wasn't the phone, but the world the phone lives in? The QuadLock system works like this. The phone case has a proprietary circular lock built into its back panel. A corresponding mount, engineered to receive that exact circular mechanism, can be attached to virtually anything: a bike handlebar, a motorcycle stem, a car dashboard, a desk, a tripod. One quarter-turn twist locks the phone in place with a rated hold strength that can withstand off-road terrain and highway speeds. This sounds like a product feature. It is actually a business model in physical form. Here's the economic architecture. When a consumer buys their first QuadLock case, typically $40 to $60, they don't just buy a phone case. They buy into a mounting ecosystem. To use that case, they need at least one mount. Maybe a bike mount for commuting, then a car mount for navigation, then an armband for running. Each mount costs between $30 and $80. Each one requires physical installation, drilling, clamping, adhesive bonding onto a permanent object: a car, a bike, a motorcycle. Here is the switching cost asymmetry that makes this the most elegant business trap in consumer hardware. 2 years later, when that consumer upgrades their phone, a competitor offers them a generic case for $15. Sounds tempting, but if they buy that cheap case, their entire $200 mounting infrastructure becomes completely useless overnight. Every mount, every installation, every bolt, instantly worthless. To leave the ecosystem, the customer has to accept a massive physical penalty. They have to unscrew, scrape, and completely rebuild their infrastructure from scratch. The structural penalty of leaving is vastly higher than the cost of simply buying Quadlock's next $40 case upgrade. The customer isn't loyal, they are anchored. This is switching cost asymmetry, and it is one of the most powerful underutilized moats in all of consumer product strategy. Apple does this with the iPhone ecosystem. Salesforce does it with CRM data migration friction. Quadlock did it with a bolt and a quarter-turn twist lock. And the compounding effect of this model is extraordinary, because Quadlock doesn't just sell to cyclists. They sell to motorcyclists, runners, hikers, car commuters, truck drivers, military personnel, first responders, and professional photographers. Every new activity vertical is a new installation event, a new permanent anchor bolted into someone's life. By the time of the Thule acquisition, Quadlock had sold into over 100 countries. They weren't a phone case company with global distribution. They were a mounting infrastructure company with a phone case as the entry point SKU. When Thule looked at Quadlock, they didn't see a phone case brand. They saw a company that had already bolted itself, physically, permanently, onto the bikes, motorcycles, and vehicles of millions of athletes and adventurers worldwide. That was Thule's exact customer, already locked in, already installed, already anchored. The acquisition wasn't a purchase of a product, it was a purchase of installed infrastructure. This is the moment every operator needs to stop and make a decision. There are builders who are engineering ecosystems, proprietary infrastructure that traps switching costs, accumulates physical anchor points in the customer's world, and turns each new product launch into the only logical upgrade path. And there are operators who are scaling arbitrage brands, asset-light, distribution-first machines that capture margin through cultural positioning, packaging psychology, and channel dominance, without the capital intensity of building physical infrastructure. Neither is wrong. Both are legitimate paths to serious enterprise value, but you cannot execute both simultaneously, not at the beginning. Let's verify who is actually in this room. If you are engineering a switching cost ecosystem, physically, digitally, or operationally anchoring your customers inside your infrastructure, comment lock-in. If you are building an asset-light distribution arbitrage machine, owning the brand and the channel while outsourcing the manufacturing, comment arbitrage. Let's see how this boardroom is actually divided. Let's lock in the macro lesson before we translate it. Quadlock's $500 million outcome was not built on brand love, not on viral marketing, not on superior product finish. It was built on a single architectural decision made at the very beginning of the company's life. We will not sell a product, we will sell an installation. Every subsequent revenue stream, the mounts, the accessories, the new case for every iPhone generation, was the natural economic output of that one founding principle. The customer doesn't come back because they like Quadlock. They come back because they've already physically embedded Quadlock into their life, and the cost of extraction exceeds the cost of continuation. Emotional loyalty is a marketing expense. Structural inertia is a balance sheet asset. Now, the translation layer. Because this framework, switching cost asymmetry through physical or structural installation, is not exclusively available to venture-backed hardware startups. It is available to you, right now, at whatever scale you're operating. You do not need a manufacturing plant to deploy this architecture. If you are a freelancer or agency, stop selling deliverables. Start selling infrastructure. There is a massive difference between a client who hires you to build a website and a client whose entire CRM, automation stack, and customer data pipeline you architected and now maintain. One of those clients gets a quote from a cheaper freelancer and leaves. The other one looks at migrating away from your system and realizes it would cost them 6 months of operational disruption. That's switching cost asymmetry, built without a single piece of hardware. If you are building a physical product brand, ask the Quadlock question. What can I physically install into my customer's environment that makes every subsequent purchase the only logical choice? It doesn't have to be a mount bolted to a motorcycle. It can be a proprietary charging dock ecosystem, a modular storage system with a branded rail architecture, a coffee brewing platform with a proprietary filter cartridge. The mechanism is the same. Create the permanent anchor first. Sell the consumables into that anchor afterward. Stop building exit-free products. Deliberately engineer exit friction from day one. If you are building a SaaS or digital product, Every integration you build with a third-party platform is a switching cost multiplier. Every piece of proprietary data you accumulate inside your platform, behavioral history, custom workflows, trained AI models, is an anchor. Every API connection your customers build on top of your infrastructure is a bolt in the wall. You are not just building software, you are building exit friction. Engineer it deliberately from day one. The universal principle: emotional loyalty is a marketing expense. Structural inertia is a balance sheet asset. Every quad lock mount bolted onto a customer's bike was a capitalized switching cost, a real, physical, permanent entry on the liability side of the customer's decision-making ledger. Aggregated across millions of customers and dozens of activity verticals, that inertia network became the core of a $500 million acquisition thesis. Not the brand, not the social following, not the net promoter score. The bolts. Build anchors, not advertisements. If you want to go deeper than this, if you want the full operational playbook, the vetted deal frameworks, and direct access to a network of operators who are actually building businesses using these exact mechanics, the link in the description is the only door that matters right now. This is not a newsletter. This is not a course. This is a private operators network, and it is invite only for a reason. One final question. Let's verify who is in the room. If you are currently operating, actively building a venture, a brand, a system, comment builder. If you are in the analysis phase, sharpening the model, studying the market, preparing your first move, comment strategist. Both seats at this table are legitimate, but we need to know who is in the boardroom. Most people will watch this, nod, and go back to competing on price. A small number will rewatch it twice, pull out a notebook, and start mapping every structural friction point they can engineer into their business model before the week is over. That second group is who this channel exists for. Subscribe to Tycoon Logic, or this might be the last time you ever see us.